Peace to everyone. I just got done watching the sentencing hearing of Jason Van Dyke, and the judge has ruled that he is to be sentenced to 81 months for fatally shooting Laquan McDonald. Former Chicago police officer Jason Van Dyke was sentenced Friday to 6 years and 9 months in the killing of 17-year-old Laquan McDonald, more than 4 years after the shooting. So it took a long while for this trial to go through after he was found guilty in October. He was sentenced today, and people are not really happy about it. The family's not happy. Nobody's happy about this 81 months of sentencing. The veteran police officer, was convicted in October of second-degree murder and 16 counts of aggravated battery with a firearm for the shooting in October 2014. The shooting and video of it prompted protests throughout Chicago and fueled the ongoing nationwide conversation about police shootings. So people were protesting outside of the court today, and Jason Van Dyke thought he could get away with it, but he couldn't. But these 16 counts of aggravated battery that Jason Van Dyke had done was totally unacceptable. So now that he's been sentenced, he has like 30 days to appeal the sentence and everything else, but I hardly think that he's gonna get any approval on it. He had been the first Chicago police officer to be charged with first-degree murder since 1980. Van Dyke was sentenced on just the murder charge, Cook County Judge Vincent Gahn said. So now that Jason Van Dyke, he was only sentenced on the second-degree murder, and that was it. Or I should say, I'm sorry, the first-degree murder. Or no, it was the second, either the first or second, whichever one it was, but he got sentenced for it today. Special Prosecutor Joe McMahon said justice was served. So yes, this is a big day for the McDonald family that they finally got justice for Laquan. And a lot of people may not be happy about it because they want Jason Van Dyke to spend the rest of his life in jail, which I really don't blame them because, after everything that they went through and everything else, this is a significant sentence, says McMahon, who had recommended that Van Dyke be sentenced to a minimum 18 years for the aggravated battery charges. I and his I and this team are satisfied we achieved our goal of justice and holding Jason Van Dyke accountable for his actions. So now the people have held Jason Van Dyke accountable for the murder of Laquan McDonald. So he's the very first officer to be hitting the clink since 1980. Van Dyke's defensive lawyer, Darren O'Brien, had asked that his client be sentenced only for the second-degree murder charge. It would be unfair for Van Dyke to be sentenced for both the second-degree murder charge and the aggravated battery charges, O'Brien said, since the bullet wounds caused McDonald's death. Yeah, so I saw the video what happened to Laquan, and Jason Van Dyke shot 16 times right into Laquan. And as you can see here in the picture, Jason Van Dyke is, I do believe, being seen in a courtroom, but I do believe he's being escorted out to be sentenced to his jail cell. O'Brien didn't ask for a specific sentence, but the defense had previously asked Van Dyke get probation or receive no more than the minimum 6-year sentence for aggravated battery, according to CNN affiliated WLS. So Jason Van Dyke got 6 years and 6 3/4 years of prison sentence, even though that's not enough for him. But they had no choice, but the judge had made his decision. Given a chance to speak before the judge's ruling, Van Dyke reiterated that he had feared for his life. No one wants to take someone's life, even in defense of their own, he said. Well, he should have thought about that before he shot Laquan McDonald 16 times. And and what he has done, he is going to pay that for the rest of his life. He has no choice. He's got to live with it. This is what he is. And you think an officer can't go to jail? Yes, they can. They can go to jail if you hold them accountable for the murder. He said he prayed daily for McDonald's soul. Van Dyke's sentencing came a day after a Cook County judge found 3 other Chicago police officers not guilty of falsifying police reports to protect Van Dyke in a case that had come to be seen as a referendum on Chicago police officers' so-called code of silence and their alleged willingness to protect each other from criminal investigators. So yeah, yesterday another judge had found the 3 officers not guilty, and that is totally wrong because of this code of silence that they use. And they're saying, oh, we don't know anything about this and that. And then of course they're making up lies on the police report about what they have done. And now I would suggest for those 3 officers that covered up this murder, drag them back into court and redo that case over again. But not a bench trial this time. Make it a jury trial. Let them decide. The judge, she was on the police side, so I think somebody did get into her ear after she kept postponing the date for the verdict. Judge, jury, and executioner. The prosecution called several black men as witnesses who testified they had run-ins with Van Dyke and that he had allegedly mistreated them. The first, Val Joy, said that Van Dyke pulled him over as he was leaving a gas station in August 2005. Van Dyke had his gun drawn and put the gun in my temple, Joy alleged. He also alleged that Van Dyke called him the N-word, and trust me, I'm not going to say the N-word because that's how I went to jail in the first place, so I got to be careful what I say. So he pulled Joy over for whatever reason at a gas station, or he was just leaving a gas station. I guess it must have been a routine stop or whatever, and Jason Van Dyke has no remorse for anybody. Edward Nance said in his tearful testimony that he sustained shoulder injuries from his interactions with Jason Van Dyke and had to have surgery on both rotator cuffs. Nan also testified he now has anxiety, PTSD, and ADD as a result of his run-in with Van Dyke in July 2007. The prosecution did not bring an expert witness to testify that Nance's injuries were caused by Van Dyke's actions. So Jason Van Dyke had injured Edward Nance, and my heart broke what happened to him and what Jason Van Dyke had done to him. I just feel really hurtful for Edward Nance because he did not deserve all this abuse that Jason Van Dyke had done. And here is a picture of Edward Nance, who is crying because he didn't want to remember anything, but Edward Nance said he could not sleep, he cannot eat, he can't do anything. He can't even raise his right arm all the way because of the surgeries that he had done on both of the rotator cuffs, and it is very hurtful what he is doing. Laquan McDonald's great uncle, the Reverend Marvin Hunter, also took the stand, reading a letter that he wrote in McDonald's voice. So, yes, I agree with the Reverend Martin Hunter. He read the letter that he wrote in McDonald's voice. In the letter, Hunter said that Van Dyke became judge, jury, and executioner on the night MacDonald was killed. He recounted how MacDonald was about to move in with his mother and sister after his mother had battled drug addiction. So, excuse me, dry air again. So, Laquan was going to move in with his sister and his mom because of the drug addiction that his mom was battling, and and thanks to Jason Van Dyke, he took it upon himself to be judge, jury, and executioner all into one, and that was totally wrong. However, Jason Van Dyke, with his cold, callous disregarded for the life of a young black man without me provoking him, robbed us of this. The story of my life is that in the short time of my life, I have worked hard to correct the mistakes I had made, but in a matter of 6 seconds, he then took 16 shots and ended the possibility of this happening forever. So Jason Van Dyke really had done a tremendous amount of crimes. Shooting Laquan 16 times, that was really terrible. And obviously, Laquan was nowhere walking towards Jason Van Dyke. Laquan McDonald was going to the right. After he saw Jason Van Dyke, he was going to the right. And I know because I saw the video. What happened to me can never be changed, Hunter said in his great nephew's voice. But other young black men and women would not have to face Mr. Jason Van Dyke and his evil and selfish ways. So, literally, Jason Van Dyke has no remorse for anybody. And when his wife, Tiffany Van Dyke, got up on the stand during the sentencing hearing, she said that she was afraid that her husband will be killed and everything. Well, first of all, he should have thought about that because, killing somebody 16 times, that's overkill. I mean, if you want somebody to drop a knife, shoot him in the arm or in the leg. That'll make him drop the knife. But instead, Jason Van Dyke took it upon himself to shoot everybody, and that, or not everybody, to shoot Laquan McDonald 16 times all over his body, and it's just a tragic mess for what they have done. Why should this person who has ended my life forever because he chose to become judge, jury, and executioner and has never asked for forgiveness be free when I am dead forever? So, Jason Van Dyke is horrible. He's evil. And now that justice has been served, Laquan is free from this evilness. Van Dyke's wife. My life has been a nightmare. Well, you should have thought about that. You should have stopped your husband from killing Laquan, but obviously you weren't there. So, hey, you got to suffer just like he does. Van Dyke's attorneys submitted dozens of letters from police officers, longtime friends of Van Dyke and his family, asking the judge for lenity or whatever that word is. But, yeah, and the judge takes things in consideration, but not this time he hasn't. His 17-year-old daughter Kaylee read from the letter she had submitted in court Friday detailing the emotional impact of the prosecution of her father. She was bullied at school, she said, and had lost friends over her father's role in the shooting. So kids were picking on her, and the kids saying to her that her father is a murderer. And you know what? He is a murderer because, he may think he's innocent, but he's not at all, with no remorse for anything at all he has done. Over the years, I have learned how to handle my emotions and deal with him going to court. But now that he is gone, I feel as if I am left with nothing, Kaylee's letter said. So now she feels like there's nothing left of her, but when an officer does a crime, they have to pay the price for what they have done, and this took a long time for it to go to trial and everything. My heart sincerely goes to the McDonald family, but it's time to bring my dad home. It's time for him to hug and kiss his wife, I'm sorry, and protect his family. Bring my dad home, please. Well, Kaylee would love to have her father home, but not going to happen now because of what happened. Perhaps the most emotional testimony came from Van Dyke's wife, Tiffany, who described the toll the case had taken on her family emotionally and financially. My life has been a nightmare, she said. My life has been turned upside down, inside out. My husband is not with me. Well, of course not, because he's in prison. She's at home with the kids. She's working full time now, trying to make ends meet for her daughters to give them the best that she can. Tiffany Van Dyke says she pays between $400 and $500 every week so that she and her daughters can speak to Van Dyke on for just a few minutes a day. She has lost work opportunities, she said, because of who her husband is. Wow, $400 to $500 a week for phone calls? Whew, that's a lot of money. But, them phone bills pretty much add up, and it's no joke. On the night of the shooting, her husband was simply doing his job. Tiffany Van Dyke said, "There was no malice, no hatred on that night," she said through tears. Well, there was hatred that Jason Van Dyke did, so obviously Tiffany is a little bit there lying about what she is saying. Tiffany Van Dyke also says she prays every day for the McDonald family and that she wants both sides and the city of Chicago to have peace. When is there ever peace in Chicago? There is no peace there. It's fully corrupted, extremely out of control, and everything else. She pleaded for lenity, pointing out that as a convicted felon, his life is over. He has paid the ultimate price. Well, he may pay the ultimate price for some of it, but he's got a long ways to go to pay for what he has done. 16 shots in 15 seconds. The shooting was captured on a grainy police dashcam video. Several police officers were responding to a call about a man breaking into trucks in a parking lot on Chicago's South Side. So when you got a dashcam going, yes, it's going to capture everything that is going on. And with that camera, The dash camera was the center of attention because it showed what happened. The officers that were not guilty yesterday, they lied on their police report severely, covering everything up for what they have done. In the video, McDonald is initially seen running, then walking in the middle of the street towards several police cars with flashing lights. McDonald later veers away from two police officers who have their guns drawn, and within seconds he appears to spin around and fall. He was holding a knife as he walked away from multiple police officers who were following him. So these officers, they lied and said, well, McDonald was coming after me with the knife. That was not true. They've been manipulating this whole police report the whole time. Jason Van Dyke lied. The three officers lied. The court and with the three officers, when the judge said yesterday about the three officers that the emails were irrelevant and whatever else was irrelevant, and that was a lie, because you should have saw right through the police reports for what had happened. And as you can see here, part of the video, I'm not going to play it, but you can see someone with the marker and that where the bullets must have went through and everything. There were 16 shots fired over 15 seconds, all by Van Dyke. Van Dyke argued he fired in self-defense after McDonald lunged at him with a knife. That's a lie too, because McDonald never went after Jason Van Dyke. No, that was not true. But the dash cam video, which a judge ordered the city to release 13 months after the shooting, showed McDonald walking away from police rather than charging at them. So see, the camera cannot lie. It can't. But when somebody says on their police report that Laquan was coming after him with a knife, that was a lie, because it never happened that way. And the Jason Van Dyke, he got what he deserved, even though the 6 3/4 years in jail is not enough. But it's the only thing, it was the only reasonable sentence that the judge had to do. Even though people are outraged, they want Jason Van Dyke to have life in prison. Crowds of outraged protesters chanted and marched on the streets of Chicago after the 24 killing, leading to reforms and national conversation about police use of deadly force. So these police officers, they think they can get away with everything. They're using deadly force. They're doing everything they can to stop these police officers for police brutality. And since Jason Van Dyke is the first officer to go to prison since 1980, I suggest for those officers in Chicago, they better wake up and learn not to lie, because this is what's going to happen to them. And as you can see here, Jason Van Dyke in handcuffs, either coming into the court or going out of the court. Either way. Video of the shooting led to protests, a Justice Department civil rights investigation, criticism of the mayor, and eventually the ouster of the police superintendent. So there was a civil rights investigation, and of course, if they didn't know what happened to Laquan, they would have been really lost and confused. Prosecutor McMahon has called Van Dyke's conviction a gratifying verdict. This is a victory for America. The Marvin Hunter McDonald's great uncle told reporters after the verdict last year. Members of the jury later told reporters that Van Dyke's testimony was not credible and seemed rehearsed. So, Jason Van Dyke must have been rehearsing this whole thing after they found out that it was not credible. It was it was ridiculous. It was a lie. Jason Van Dyke must have written something for him to remember of what took place that night that Laquan was murdered. Nobody believes Jason Van Dyke because he's a liar and he lied on the police report saying that Laquan came after him with the knife. But that never happened. The dash cam never lies. When you have a camera rolling and it picks up what really happened, the camera cannot lie. No matter how much you try to manipulate it or anything, it can't. Let this be a lesson for all the police officers. And if you see something in your neighborhood or in your community, hold that police officer accountable. Get them into court. Do whatever it takes to get these officers off the force, because Jason Van Dyke will never be a police officer again. He has been dismissed entirely from the police force. He cannot work as a police officer ever again, no matter how hard he tries to get a job as one. If nobody is going to want him ever. So you better start holding these police officers accountable for what they have done. Get the community involved. Get the activists involved. Get the civil rights activists involved. Get anybody you can involved. Because this has to stop with the police brutality. Enough is enough with the police officers. Do not let them get away with anything ever. Because the next time somebody does, it could be one of your family members and you won't even know it. The officers have to be held accountable for what they have done. Do not let do not take them lightly. Make sure you put a foot on their neck for good. And remember what they have done. These officers have done. They are not to get away with anything ever again. I am out.